When I ask people if they eat leafy greens every day, most people assume I am thinking of lettuce, spinach, kale. But what if I told you that some of the most nutrient-dense leafy greens in your kitchen are the ones that you're using as a garnish? I'm talking about parsley, cilantro, basil, rosemary, thyme, dill, peppermint. All of those different foods. Sometimes we sprinkle them on our food to add some flavor, and we don't really think about all of the nutritional benefits that we get from those foods. Maybe you also know a little bit about the medicinal benefits. They can be both. So I want to change the way we think about our fresh herbs. So if you don't know me, I am Jennifer Whitmire, and I help people use food as medicine to reduce inflammation, balance blood sugar, and support healthy aging. Most of my clients struggle with an autoimmune concern. I help them with use food to help with that. My personal history was an autoimmune diagnosis in 2007. My goal is to help you understand the science without making nutrition too complicated. My world is health education at heart. I want to educate you on nutrition in whatever way is going to benefit you. So herbs are more than just a seasoning. We don't have to just use them for flavoring. One of the biggest mindset shifts that I made years ago was to stop thinking about herbs as just a little bit of flavor on top of my food, kind of like when I sprinkle a little bit of sea salt to bring out a flavor. Maybe if I'm making something chocolate, it helps with the sweetness, or I really do crave salt. But we can start thinking of our herbs as vegetables in a lot of different places around the world. Some of the herbs we use are treated as vegetables overseas. I'm thinking specifically of stinging nettle. I wrote my thesis on stinging nettle, but here it's stinging nettle. It's an herb, but in a lot of places they cook it just like they would spinach, something like that, right? So let's start thinking of them as vegetables and start thinking about the nutrition that they can add to our meals. Most of our herbs are high concentrations of antioxidants and phytonutrients that protect our cells from oxidative stress. So if you haven't heard me talk about oxidative stress, I talked about in each of the last two videos. It's basically we're preventing any oxidation in our body. Think of like rusting in our body. We don't want any rusting in our body. We want lots of antioxidants to help prevent any of that rusting. These herbs also add vitamins and minerals and different unique compounds that maybe we don't find in some of our everyday foods as well. So we don't have to remember the science. I am just helping you understand why I am talking about adding more herbs to our plate. The more variety we have, the better it is for our body. We hear a lot of influencers talking about eating 30 different produce items. I was gonna say vegetables, but it could be fruits, it could be nuts and seeds, it could be legumes, but 30 different to help with our microbiome. Well, our herbs and spices can count in that 30. Those are still a plant food that provides fiber as well as other nutrients for our body. So let's talk about some of my favorites. Parsley. You can grow parsley in your kitchen window. Maybe you have an herb garden, but you can also buy fresh parsley in the grocery store. Parsley is extremely high in vitamin C as well as lots of other minerals. Look at how deep green the parsley is. I intended to hold it up while I was talking. I forgot to grab mine. But you can pile it on. You can turn it into a pesto and you make it as a sauce that goes over some zoodles or something like that. Just very mineral rich and very high in vitamin C, but also in vitamin K, which helps us with our bones, in folate. Whenever I think of folate, I think of foliage. It's coming in our vegetables, and that is a more natural form of that B vitamin that is so important for so many different systems in our body, as well as the vitamin C and lots of other antioxidants. You can toss parsley into salads, just treat it as a leafy green in your leafy salad. It adds a wonderful flavor. Put it in your soups. I like, if I make a vegetable soup, it's hard to think of a vegetable soup in the middle of August, but I will just get some tomato paste and stir a large amount of basil and parsley in the tomato paste and then add the tomato paste into my soup and it'll melt and release those herbs and adds a fabulous flavor to soups. But you could also do the same thing in beans and make like some smoky beans that are full of all these herbs. And you could even, if you make green smoothies, throw in parsley into your smoothies. It's wonderful. And parsley is also fabulous for the kidneys as well. Cilantro. So cilantro, you either love it or hate it. I actually used to not like it and thought it tasted like dish soap, and now I love it. So it's weird because I've heard that was genetic, but for some reason my taste buds changed the same as with arugula. But if you love it, use it generously. It is wonderful for brightening the flavor of a dish, giving it almost a citrusy type flavor. It gives you that beautiful green color, and it's packed with wonderful vitamins and minerals as well. So putting it in salsas and soups on top of tacos or wraps or tostados or a green bowl, any Mexican flavored type dish, it pairs excellent. But there are other dishes you could put it in as well. I even will put it in a drink. I need to get a sip of water. I was talking too much. So basil. Basil is another one that I have right outside my window. You can grow it easily inside your house. And it is another one that is very, very high in vitamins and minerals, which are so important for our body. It is delicious with tomatoes. So any kind of tomato dish you're making, pesto, stirring it into soups. I'm shredding it. It does bruise easily. And so you do want to be careful, like if you cut it, it'll kind of, it might get a brown color. Scattering it over roasted vegetables. I like it dried, but you get the best nutrients if you use it fresh. It adds this wonderful flavoring without having to add extra um, salts or something like that. And so basil is another wonderful addition. And then rosemary, thyme, oregano, those are medicinal. So they are very high in vitamins and minerals. But they're also wonderful for circulation. They're wonderful for cold and flu season. And so start incorporating them now, and then when we start getting into cold and flu season, you'll definitely want to be used to regularly including those into your foods. Those I always have on hand. They're delicious on roasted vegetables. Add them into your salads. If they're fresh, just add them into your salads, incorporate them. It really adds a whole new level to your salads or wraps, soups, roasted vegetables, even in hummus. If I make a hummus, then I will stir in those herbs as well, along with maybe some cumin and some chili powder as I like spicy. But it's so easy to add these into dips and things too. And then it just really up levels the nutrient density of the foods that you're eating in such a simple way. And they're still a dark leafy green, they're non-starchy, which means they don't have a lot of carbohydrates. They're not going to affect your blood sugar. If anything, they're going to help improve your blood sugar, improve the health of your liver and your other body systems. So one of the easiest ways to improve your diet doesn't have to be going out and buying bottles of supplements. Just start adding these fresh herbs to your salads, to your soups, to your wraps. They add more color, my number two rule. They increase the flavor. We're already used to that, crumbling them over things. They increase your plant diversity to help with your microbiome. We want the more diverse, the better. And more color, more diversity, more plants. These are simple things we can do that help with our long-term health and help with increasing an active, long health so that we are very active as we age, as well as improving where we are today. So should you have dried or fresh? Really, the truth is, whichever way you're going to use them. If you buy them fresh and they always go bad, then don't stop buying them fresh and just use the dried. Or if you buy them fresh and use them and find that you still have a lot left over, that happens to me, I throw them in the dehydrator and keep them at 100 to 105, dry them until they're crispy brittle because you don't want any moisture in that jar when you package them because that would grow mold. You want them crispy dry, including the stems if you're drying the stems as well. But use them whichever way you're going to use them best. I like to try them fresh. If I think they're going to go bad before I use them, then I dry them in my dehydrator. Why I don't want you to dry them in like your oven, that heats it too high, that destroys all the nutrients, and it just kind of, you miss the purpose there. We want them raw to get all those nutrients, but if they're dried at a low heat where they maintain their color. So if I put parsley in the dehydrator, and when I take it out of the dehydrator, it's still a bright green, I know it's maintained those nutrients. That's what we want. If I go to the store and I buy oregano and it's brown, I know it was heated too high or it's been stored in too high of a heat. So that's something to look for as well. But use in whatever way you're going to use it. If you're using herbs as a garnish, it doesn't have to be that way. You can blend them into salad dressings. I forgot, that's another thing that I do is I will just in my blender add a bunch of different fresh herbs with what I use beans for my dressing. I love creamy dressings, but however you make dressings, if you make dressings, throw in a lot of herbs and it changes the flavor, brightens it up. It's amazing. You start getting used to those flavors and then you crave those flavors. Stirring parsley into soups, add fresh leaves into your salads, cilantro, put more cilantro in your salsas or on top of your tacos. Put dill into your vegetables. Dill is fabulous with potatoes if you eat potatoes. Rosemary on all your roasted vegetables, thyme in your bean dishes. I also, like I said, stir them into dips and things like that. Add them to as many meals as you can. So this week, your challenge, I want you to buy one fresh herb or gather an herb from your garden if you know it's safe and clean, not sprayed with any chemicals, something that you haven't used in a long time, or maybe you've never used, dill or basil or parsley, whatever it is, and find three different ways you can use it. I would make like a tofu scramble and throw some herbs into that, make a bean dip. Maybe it's not a hummus since I keep talking about hummus. So a new bean dip and add a bunch of herbs. Maybe make a pinto bean dip. And then let me think of a third one. Probably a salad where I could add some fresh herbs, something like that. So I'd love to hear from you. What is your favorite fresh herb? I don't know how I would answer that. And is there one you've never tried cooking with that you've never used before? Tell me in the comments. And next week, we're going to wrap up our Eat the Rainbow series by looking at one of the most overlooked health habits of all, why eating a wide variety of plant foods is so important and more important than looking for that one perfect food. And I kind of hinted at that in the last three episodes. But remember, you literally are what you eat. What we're eating is broken down into the different cells of our body and sending different chemical messages throughout our body as well. So make good food choices, comment, let me hear from you, and I will see you again next Monday.